Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Robo Celestial here with a new video for you. Welcome to the part 1 of What If Deku Got One for All Early Season 1. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So, we begin. The city was bustling and the streets were crowded. The news went a wall about the massive villain that was stopped in his tracks by Mount Lady. There was a boy with green hair who was within the crowd of onlookers. And well, you know the rest. Hi, my name is Izuku Midoriya. Growing up, I always had an aspiration for heroes and quirks alike. Sadly, however, I was born without one, but that never stopped me from chasing my dreams to become one someday. I trained hard growing up, working out every day on top of catching up with my studies, despite the constant put-downs by others on my lofty and foolish goal. I fought through the criticism and pushed on. On the day of the massive villain attack, I ran into a sludge villain and All Might saved me. By far the best day of my life despite being almost killed. Though because of my curiosity the same sludge villain escaped and ended up getting my childhood bully, Bakugo, as a hostage for the same villain who escaped. And now we're here. This is the story of how I became the world's greatest hero. I am here. All Might, why are you here? You were surrounded by reporters until just now. Getting away from them was a piece of cake. Why? Because I am All Might. All Might bursted into a cloud of smoke, freaking out Midoriya like he did before. He wiped the blood from his lip and carried on. Young man, I come with thanks, a correction, and a suggestion. If you hadn't been there, if you hadn't told me about your life, I would have turned into a guy in a bodysuit who was all talk. Thank you, that can't be. It was my fault in the first place. I got in the way of your work. And I said all those things even though I'm quirkless. That's right, it was because it was none other than this timid, quirkless boy at the scene that I was able to act. Top heroes have stories about them from their school days. Most of their stories have one thing in common. Their bodies moved before they had a chance to think. You share these qualities, young Midoriya. You too can become a hero. Thank you, All Might. Enough with the waterworks, kid. I need you to pay attention. I want you to inherit my quirk. One for all. This quirk stockpiles power. It's been passed down through the generations. Each time, the power grows with each successor. To inherit this gift, however, you must first prepare your body to hold all this power. Whoa. I've never heard anything like this before. I mean, it seems impossible for something like this to be a thing. Hey kid, you're spitting out word vomit again. Anyway, I should put you through some physical training if you're serious about being the next symbol of peace. Izuku began to lift his shirt, revealing his chiseled figure and seeing if this was enough to hold one for all. Upon looking, All Might spat out more blood out of pure shock. Young man, I had no idea you were already this fit. Yes, that should be more than enough to hold one for all. All Might then pulled out a small bit of hair from his scalp and presented it to Izuku. Eat this. What? Why should I do that? All Might got nervous as he scratched the back of his head with his other hand. Well, to gain my quirk, you must ingest some of my DNA. That's just how it works. Izuku ate the piece of hair grudgingly, however. Now Izuku has a full 6 months to get a hold of this quirk. A few days passed, and it was time for Izuku's quirk training with All Might. Turns out, All Might did some online research and found a beach that was in desperate need of cleaning. This wasn't to focus on Izuku's physical strength, but to focus on helping him get acquainted with One for All. He used One for All in the specific limbs he needed for lifting, that being arms and legs, because of All Might's direction. Izuku doesn't go full out with One for All the first time he uses it. For now he is just testing the waters. So, this is the power of All Might. Izuku gradually increases his power output until he reaches his limits, which at this point would be about 3%. On accident, Izuku pushed the limits too hard and ended up spraining his arm. My arm. All Might ran over to check on his pupil, making sure that he was okay. That's right, young man. This is the trouble you will face when dealing with One for All earlier on. All Might decided to end the training for the day, giving Izuku some time to recover, since injuries during exercise can cause an opposite effect of their goal. Meanwhile, All Might went back to UA, sitting in the meeting room with Principal Nezu and Recover Girl. All Might went to explain the situation with his new successor. He stated that he would like to borrow Recovery Girl throughout certain times of the day to help train young Midori. Principal Nezu agreed that he can have Recovery Girl in the afternoons 5 days a week. The days went on with Izuku's quirk training. This time with Recovery Girl present, this allowed All Might to be more reckless with Izuku. Recovery Girl's job was to just fix any wounds Izuku may sustain throughout his training. As the days went on, All Might spoke to the city council. He was able to make it so that Izuku could use his quirk in the cleanup of the beach. So, for the next 6 months, Izuku would be training his quirk by removing the built-up trash and junk from the beach. He would take his time with this, slowly pushing his limits. After about 2 months of doing this every day, he would reach 8%, though he is still only using it in parts of his body, not throughout his entire body at once. While this is happening, All Might noticed that his time limit is slowly decreasing but keeping it to himself. Izuku came to school each day with bruises and scratches from his hard work the night before. His teachers would be slightly concerned that Bakugo was hurting him. One day a teacher would talk to him privately. Midoriya, has Bakugo been picking on you? Has he attacked you outside of class? Bakugo, oh no, nothing like that. I've been doing a lot of volunteer work, helping clean up the beach, trying to get into shape for the entrance exams. Well, if anything does come up, feel free to talk to me or another teacher. All right, Izuku would agree and would head out for the day. The teacher would go and talk to Bakugo, asking him to keep a distance from Izuku and to make sure that he would lay off him. Damn it, Deku. Lying to the teacher like that. I'll get you back for sure. Over the next few weeks, Bakugo would bully and terrorize Izuku more and more. Before and after school, this would increase the tension between the two of them. Izuku knows that he has a quirk and could fight back at any time, and Bakugo thinks he is showing Izuku how much better he is than him. However, this would have the opposite effect than what Bakugo wants. It would cause Izuku to train even harder. Izuku wants to reach the same level as Bakugo, so that one day he can surpass him. Speaking of surpassing your goals, let me take a few minutes to talk to you about a website called Skillshare. Have you ever wanted to learn how to do something out of the ordinary or interesting? Well, you can by taking classes online at Skillshare.com, which are taught by instructors and have their own class rosters. Heck, I learned how to juggle and make a PB&J sandwich the right way by using Skillshare. So what are you waiting around for? There are dozens of online courses that you can take ranging from physics all the way to finger painting. Be sure to check for our referral link in the description after watching this video for a free 1-month trial courtesy of Skillshare. It's thanks to them we can provide content to you guys as often as we do. So we thank Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Now, back to the video. By this point, it's been about 3 months. Izuku can now use 12%. And All Might thinks it's time for combat training. For combat training we need to hold back as much as we can. Try just using 1%. In this training, smile-mouthed All Might noticed that Izuku isn't as agile as he should be. He sees that Izuku isn't using 1 for all throughout his whole body. Instead, he is using it in just focused areas. After one of their sparring matches, All Might points this out to Izuku. Izuku is confused at first, as this is how he has used 1 for all the whole time. All Might explains the quirk to him. Let the power flow through you. Izuku is shocked by this, realizing that if he allows 1 for all to flow throughout his whole body, he will be able to use the quirk more effectively, overall lowering his power output, but it will get rid of the major drawback of breaking his bones. Izuku spends the next few days practicing using the power evenly throughout his whole body. He noticed that it's weaker than when he uses it in one limb. But now Izuku is more agile, because Izuku has access to 18%. He can still throw short and long-range punches and kicks. It takes him a while to be able to have full cowl on without thinking about it. 4 months. He finishes cleaning up the beach in 4 months. All Might got out of his car that morning, wearing warmer clothes due to the seasonal change. It took a few moments of walking before All Might could see the entirety of the beach over the parking lot railing. Though, once he did, his expression went from indifferent to wide-mouthed. On instinct, this caused All Might to bulk up while Izuku was on top of the pile, still covered in 1 for all's lightning as he screamed a battle cry. Holy, stinking, super crap, young Midoriya. You even got the area outside of what I told you to. Izuku fell off the pile, All Might zipping his way beneath him to catch Izuku. Only, Izuku's limp body blasted out a surge of a black unknown substance, catching his fall. Izuku opening his eyes to see All Might beneath him. All Might, when did you get here? It took a few moments for Izuku to realize that he wasn't being carried by All Might, but instead, he was carried by the mysterious black substance. All Might's face lit up in shock as he saw this. He reached out and grabbed Izuku's arm and pulled him down to the floor. The substance restrained itself back inside of his body. What is this, All Might? Is this a part of 1 for all? I don't know, but it seems you've reached a milestone. Not only did you clean up the beach, but 1 for all has gifted you with 1 of the vestiges. Izuku patted himself down, catching his breath after an already long morning. What do we do now? All Might pulled a big smile in his muscular form. All Might told Izuku that they will have weekly sparring matches until the exam. Izuku shook his head no in retaliation. No, All Might. I need more training than that. I still need to push harder than everybody else. Being the quirkless boy I was, and now I'm shooting for the stars to be the next All Might. There is no way weekly combat training is enough for me. Especially when I have a whole 2 more months to be a more capable hero. All Might once again widened his smile. Hearing this made him feel proud of the young pupil. But not only him, but himself as well. Proud at the fact that he chose the right person for this torch. All Might then went into the American Dream plan. This will be because Izuku needs to also focus on his studies from this point onwards. His ability to use the quirk is there. He just needs to work on his marks to get into UA. A wavering fist raised, supported by sheer muscle. Winds coursed around the fist as it accelerated through the air until the arm was fully extended, causing the wind to blast out towards the helpless boy who could do nothing but absorb the vortex as he flew backward. You got to hold your stance, young man. Villains are far more capable of launching heroes off their toes these days. Endure it. This resistance exercise carried on from dusk till dawn. Each time Izuku was sent back, and with each take the emerald-haired adolescent was sent back a much lesser distance than before, on the last fist throw of the day. This time the strange black substance showed itself again on impact, connecting the sides of Izuku's torso to deep within the sand beneath him. Anchoring Izuku where he stood as the vortex disfigured his hair and flapped the cheeks on his face. All Might and Izuku consecutively smiled at each other. And it earned him an extended exercise, switching the practice from self-anchoring to getting a grasp of this new quirk. Alas, it never showed up again that day. He spends the rest of the time until the exam doing combat training and study. He also practiced turning full cowl on and leaving it on for as long as he can. The few first times, he could last up to 3 hours at a time before his body locked up. Though, unlike All Might, Izuku only needs 10 minutes to cool down again, which is where Izuku would turn it back on for another 3 hours as he sparred with All Might. Izuku would even do this outside of the beach, leaving the quirk on in school, or even while he's just at home, doing small exercises as well. This helped Izuku's body to adjust to the higher percentages of one for all, while increasing the time he can use. This kept up until Izuku could finally leave one for all on permanently while at 20%. The time for the exam was upon them. All Might tells Izuku that he was proud of him for all the work he has put in and for how far he has come. He also lets Izuku know to give the exam his best, though Izuku still felt a sense of disaccomplishment. The mysterious other quirk never showed up again after the anchor training. The theory-based exam. Izuku did pretty well on this, since he hadn't overworked his body. He was able to study without feeling so drained. He spent the end of the year just focused on studying since he finished cleaning the beach early. In the practical exam, Izuku wasn't all too nervous. He knew he had the power, and he'd done all the work beforehand for this. He had to give it his best. Bakugo was still placed next to him for the explanation of the point system. Bakugo was livid, seeing the useless, quirkless loser at UA like this. Well, it was only a matter of time before he'd get kicked out anyway. So the blonde wasn't too worried. When it was time to begin, Izuku dashed off, outrunning Ada, and scored a massive amount of points right off the bat. Izuku would use the buildings to bounce around to get through the city even faster, obliterating robots as he zipped by. The rest of the class was struggling to find robots to destroy since Deku is destroying them before they even get the chance. Towards the end of the exam, the 0-point robot was released as it rose out of a building, the rubble trapping Ochako under, and everyone started running from the gigantic robot. Izuku had flashbacks to when he saw Bakugo being captured by the sludge villain. His body leaped at the robot, hitting it with 25% of his power, destroying it with multiple punches to the face. Still, this time he lands on his feet, as everyone is in shock. He goes down to one knee as he pushed himself up to 25%, and that caused his body to hurt quite a lot. Time was up, and he slowly pulled Ochako from the rubble before he walked out feeling very proud of himself. He was certain that he passed the exam. A few days later, he gets the disc from UA, telling him that he had passed. And in fact, he was at the top of his class. He'd scored the most points in the bots category and the hero category. In fact, there was a massive gap between Izuku and Bakugo compared to the rest of the students. He'd also scored quite high on the written portion as well. Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would just like to let you know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description, so feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video. So goodbye and have a divine day.